knows that MAGA does all of these cruel things, and they feel so proud about them until it comes back to bite them in the ass, and then it personally affects them. One would think being personally affected by something might cause a change of heart, might cause a moment. Not for MAGA. Put up this headline. Republicans' life-threatening pregnancy collided with Florida's abortion politics. Due in August with her first child, Representative Kat Cammack says doctors last year hesitated to treat her ectopic pregnancy. Go to the next slide. Cammack doesn't fault the Florida law for her experience. Instead, she accuses the left of scarring medical professionals with messaging that stress that they could face criminal charges for violating the law. Florida banned abortion after 6 weeks, and everybody has seen all of the headlines all around from Texas to Oklahoma to Florida, how serious they would be to physicians if they disobeyed this. And this little bitch could have had a moment where she spoke out about this and advocated for other women in her position. But instead, she blames the left.
It's so typical. I mean, you're seeing people that didn't vaccinate their kids for measles and their kids die and they're still anti-vax. These people have no ability to understand reality. This woman clearly losing her child and almost losing her life was not a wake-up call for her, because it is more important for her to own the libs and demonize the left and the woke policies.
And it's important to say she didn't lose a child. This was a fetus. This was a pregnancy that was not viable. And this is a private medical procedure that should have been conducted. But instead of finding rational thought and maybe a place where she could then speak to the public and say, this is dangerous. My life was at risk. The physicians were terrified because of the laws that I helped pass. Instead, she just blames the left. And women are suffering in the United States, but that suffering is the point. That is the point. These Republicans want women to suffer. And sadly, Republican women vote for it because the internalized misogyny runs so deep in MAGA households. Next up, we have something that's so disturbing. This is the acting ICE director. And here's what he has to say about ICE agents.
My officers and agents walk into danger so other people can sleep safely at night, so kids can make it to school safely and play outside. So while it's easy to be an armchair quarterback and make up talking points that get activists riled up, the bottom line is my officers and agents are out there protecting the same people who are threatening their safety. Law enforcement's common sense. Politicians need to stop putting my people in danger. I'm not asking them to stop. I'm demanding that they stop. Here's what I have to say to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, and anyone else stirring up the outrage about what ICE does. These are real people with real families you're hurting with your ridiculous rhetoric and inflammatory comments. And it's time to remember that.
You know, Todd Lyons, the real people with real families are the people who are going to Home Depot to get supplies for a day job that they're working on that Americans won't do. And you have these ICE agents that wear masks on. If they're so proud of the work they're doing, why don't they show their faces? Cops in the streets, they show their faces. Sheriff's Department, they show their faces. Why are your agents not in uniforms covering their faces when they go and rip families apart, not knowing if anybody has committed a crime or not? This is so breathtakingly immoral. And the fact that the majority of the people that I know that support all of this also are deeply evangelical people is just such breathtaking hypocrisy. It disgusts me. It disgusts me to my core, because most of the people that live, especially in the Northern America, they're not privy to what's going on at the border. This is all shit that's drummed up by Fox News to make you think that all these criminals are coming in here and committing all of these crimes. Meanwhile, all the criminals work for the federal government. That's where all the criminals are. Elon Musk went in to shut down investigations into him and into his companies. But we're separating workers that pay taxes and they never get the benefits of it. They never get their Social Security. And the fact that there's not a humane path that's led by Christians, the Christians shouldn't be leading the charge of helping these people, is just so typical if you live in a Bible Belt state of the cruelty that reigns at the heart of evangelical Christianity.
Here's the thing. This man and the people that follow Trump believe in the dehumanization of other people. They do not believe that those people are human and have human emotions, because they have dehumanized them so that they can do all kinds of horrible things to him. Yet they want sympathy for their families, but they're incapable of applying that both ways, and it is the height of hypocrisy.
It's so disturbing. I think that's one of the harder things about living in America right now. I get that Trump is evil and a bad actor, and I get that he surrounded himself. The support, the numbers of support is the part that's so disheartening for me, that so many people see that and they get excited. They get excited seeing a person crying and screaming, "What about my child?" and getting arrested and hauled off, that it gives them some personal satisfaction. So I thought that message from the acting ICE director is just so abhorrent. And again, it's teaching this prioritizing life and categorizing which lives are of value. Right. And for him, these ICE agents, their lives are paramount to anything else. And my thing about ICE, show your faces. If you're proud of the work you're doing, put on a uniform and show your face, and then march the people that you claim are criminals, march them into court. But as it stands, the Obama administration and the Biden administration deported far more people, all using legal means that would never even have to go in front of any court, because every single person received due process. Next up, we have more just horrific stories as to what's happening in the United States. And this is what they try to detract you from all the time. Jean Favreau is reporting on a story that broke. And he says, "Is this what you wanted, Stephen Miller? A mother who was 5 months pregnant, who just found out she and her American citizen fiance were having a boy, lost her baby after federal agents in a detention center repeatedly denied her pleas for prenatal care, lived and worked in Tennessee for years, detained by ICE for over a month, forced to sleep on prison cell floor, served food with cockroaches, said she was starving and having stomach pains, guards told her it was normal, begged to be deported so at least she could get prenatal care in Guatemala. ICE refused. She delivered her stillborn baby in front of 2 guards who shackled her feet. Then for 2 days, she wasn't allowed to call her fiance or talk to anyone. She cried alone and was deported to Guatemala shortly after the stillbirth." And so this is just a prime example of the breathtaking hypocrisy that lives in many middle Americans' lives. They say they're pro-life, and then when you present this in front of them, they're fine with it. That doesn't, there is a lack of empathy at the heart of the fundamentalist and, quite frankly, mainstream evangelical movement. There is a lack of empathy for people that go through this type of suffering, and instead they favor punishment. They favor tattletelling on people. They favor always the toxic, most cruel choice. And for Stephen Miller, this is the shit that he just furiously masturbates to nonstop. I mean, he cannot get enough of this stuff. But Stephen Miller and his cruelty doesn't exist in a silo, because every evangelical Christian that I've ever met has this default setting of cruelty. They're nice on the surface, but right underneath, if you ask a question about poor people receiving health care, or somebody that might not have health insurance, has cancer, receiving care, they're like, well, they should have had a job. There's always just this severe cruelty that when I've engaged in conversations with people that are of this faith, there's no empathy there. It's really bizarre.
There's no empathy, and particularly in a situation where ICE is involved, because that typically means Black or brown people. And so this woman was completely dehumanized because she was Black or brown. And I think that it is less distasteful to white people because she is brown. They do not have the empathy or the ability to humanize them, that woman would have the same emotions that they have about there, because under it all, racism is a driving principle.
I think that's a really good point, Pumps. I think that if this was a white blonde girl,
blonde hair, blue eyes, we'd be outraged.
Yes, they would absolutely lose their minds. I think there was a case recently where a person from Oklahoma, a white family, evangelical Christian family, he packed and he went to Turks and Caicos, and he had some bullets in his backpack. And at Turks and Caicos, like that's a complete, it's very serious. Other countries take bullets and guns very, very seriously. And so he was incarcerated. The white freak out in Oklahoma and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they raised to help this man and acted like he was this just huge victim. And they would, if a black person did that, they would say, we shouldn't break the law. It's your responsibility to know the law. But when a white person does it, we do GoFundMe's and the outrage ensues. All right, next up, we have a Norwegian tourist who was barred from entering the United States, detained at Newark Airport. This Norwegian tourist, 21 years old, is barred from entering the U.S. after ICE guards find a meme showing JD Vance with a bald head on his phone. And so this is the same administration that is telling you that we need to deal with Iran because they're cruel to its citizens and they don't believe in freedom.
Right. They don't believe in freedom. Here's the thing. JD Vance and this entire administration, they're in the public eye. They lead public lives in politics, and they cannot withstand any criticism. This is so mild. The fact that they were going through his phone is an outrage to begin with. But this is not freedom of speech. This is censorship. And this is, we're going to tell you what we want you to think because we are now the thought police. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get on your phone and we're going to tell you what you can do and not do. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is the United States.
All right. And then lastly, I always like to remind everybody that the reason we are being cruel to immigrants and the reason that everybody voted for Donald Trump because they were so terrified about the 5 trans athletes in the NCAA is because nobody can afford to live in the United States. The Miami Herald is reporting that adults making under $80,000 can't afford to live comfortably in any state. And so this is the ultimate distraction. So we started off this show telling you about, the woman who tried to get an abortion. That was their big issue. This has been their decades-long issue, that's just ripping up the fabric of family and blah, blah, blah. And then now it moves on to immigrants. We move on to the LGBTQ plus people. And Pumps brilliantly pointed out that they're able to dehumanize people because of the color of their skin. But the fact of the matter is, the people at the top of the government are dehumanizing all of working class Americans all day, every single day. They're telling you that you can only have insurance if you can pay a couple $1,000s a month for it. You need to get a better job if you want better insurance. The insurance company can then not have any consumer protections, any regulations. They can deny your claim at any time. So every single day, white Americans, Black Americans, brown Americans, all Americans that aren't wealthy are dehumanized constantly. But this is how they get the majority white base to vote against their interest, is by telling you that you can't have these things because of these brown people and their breeding and all of these crazy things.
It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. But this movement led by Donald Trump has brilliantly, and I know it's been going on for decades, but people voting against their own interest, he has made an art form of it. Truly.
Yeah, George W. Bush did a really good job of it too. I remember one time Josh and I were pulling up to this gas station and there was a woman and she had probably like 5 kids in her car. The car was like literally going boom, 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 like barely making it in. The kids didn't have any shoes on. I mean, you could tell just extreme poverty. But she had Bush Cheney stickers on the back of her car. And I remember my husband looked at me and he goes, it's unfucking believable that all they have to say is we love America and family values, and they get all the rubes to vote for them.
Always.
Yeah. All right. That's all we have for this episode. We'll see you all later.